Good afternoon, everyone. Hello and very welcome. We are very thrilled to have you all with us today. The high level of interest in today's webinar is truly exciting with over than 150 registrations. So it is a pleasure to be able to offer this session to such a large and, of course, enthusiastic audience. My name is Panagiotis Marino, and I'm the Programs and Business Development Manager here at the EIMF. And I will be moderating today's webinar. So we hope that the insights shared today will, of course, add value and meet your expectations. So thank you for joining us. Now, just a few housekeeping notes before we proceed. We'll have around 45 minutes of presentation, followed by a 15-minute Q&A session. Please feel free to use the Q&A box or chat box for any questions or any comments. All questions, of course, will be answered after the presentation. The webinar is being recorded, and you will be able to watch it later on our YouTube channel at your own pace. Please note that we are not going to issue any certificate. And finally, in case that you are experiencing any technical issues, try refreshing your browser so that to be able to attend this webinar without any technical issues. So today we are presenting the topic introducing the EIMF Organisational Certification for Safe Generative AI Use and Compliance. This session will highlight how both small and large organizations can benefit from this certification, ensuring safe and compliant AI use. Andronicos will be our speaker for today. With his extensive experience in technology and business transformation, will guide you through the certification process, making the session accessible to all. So no prior IT experience is required. Before we dive into the presentation, let me introduce our presenter for today. So we're glad to have today with us Andronicos Zervides. Andronicos is a charismatic speaker, AI and business process expert, and a trainer and master communicator with a very unique ability to transform complex ideas into engaging, accessible insights. Often referred to as the Greek geek in certain circles, he captivates audiences with his innovative approach to communication, using vivid visuals, clever props, and a sharp sense of humor. Today, he leverages AI as a powerful tool in political and social justice activism, while advising organizations on cutting-edge AI technologies and their transformative potential. Throughout his career, he has delivered training for leading companies such as IBM Europe, and more recently has been a guest speaker to a national authority where he introduced the transformative power of generative AI in a private workshop for its staff. Andronicos collaborated with EIMF and LGCA to deliver one of the first generative AI workshops in Europe, offering a compelling look at AI's opportunities and existential risk. Andronicos, I hope I haven't forgotten anything. You may add whatever you wish to add in a while. So we're very glad to having you today, and we expect you to a very nice and very different, let's say, perspective from your side as always. So Andronicos, the floor is yours.
Panagiotis, thank you very much for that introduction. And I thank the EIMF for inviting me here today. It's always a pleasure to deal with you guys. I'll go into my technical background a little bit later, in a few minutes. What is of public knowledge, in case you've checked my name out, is you've probably noticed, those on the webinar who I thank for joining, is I am involved in political activism. I actually ran in 2 elections, even though I had absolutely no chance of winning here in Cyprus. Especially, you've probably noticed I have a very strong British accent with a little bit of an American, sometimes South African sort of angle to it. But no, I did run in 2 elections to get heard. You get a lot of free airtime, unlike in other countries where you pay millions, and in the United States, billions. And I'm very proud of something. And I'm not really going to touch politics today for obvious reasons, but I'm very proud that at least 20 of my ideas have been implemented by the government. I've been invited to the presidential palace. Things like photovoltaics for all, free electricity for thousands of people. I'm quite proud that was one of them. But one thing I want to say is, had I got another 200,000 votes last year in February, I'd be president of Cyprus. Okay, so on that little technicality, I didn't win, but I was fun while I was running as an independent. But one thing I want to add, in the unlikely event I actually won the election, I'd still do this webinar because I love the EIMF. I love talking about AI. I love digital transformation. And had my chief of staff interrupted me and said, President Andronicos, we've got President Putin and President Biden on the phone, they want an urgent call, I'd say, get them to call me tomorrow. I'm busy. I'm doing an IMF webinar here. So I just wanted to add that because if you check even my first name, there's a lot of politics involved, but it's not really politics. I call it social activism. And one of the big things about social activism is our future to do with AI, because people have 2 trains of thought. One, are absolutely petrified about what AI is going to do to the world, and another group are absolutely loving and endorsing it. We're going to cover some of those things as we go through this presentation today. I decided to ad lib when I'm teaching, like when I taught the advanced course with my friend and colleague Manuel Avila, who's in Canada, and I believe is on this webinar. I would use slides, I would use PowerPoints, we would do product demos, but I prefer to ad lib. It's more natural for me, and it gives more of a chance to really talk from my heart. So one thing I do want to add as part of my activism is I do use AI all the time. Some of the reports I've written are with the help of AI. My Facebook posts are with the help of AI. The images, including the first surreal image you saw when you logged in today, you probably wondered why there's a cute little puppy and a hot dog, the hot dog puppy. I'm not going to tell you why that's there. You're going to have to wait until we send you the documentation and the video. Okay, I may throw a little hint in later, but that's what it is. So I use AI extensively. My Facebook page is Andronicos CY, Andronicos spelled like my first name, CY as in Cyprus. So, okay, quick background. I just want to home in a little more of my technical expertise and business skills because it's important you know this. Quite often when people are either teaching AI or teaching the concepts, or it could even be anything, it's good that they're versatile, and I am. I've got 45 years experience in IT. It was technical, senior management roles. I got involved in the first automating help desks and problem and change management, and automating those back in the day. And it was a new market. It was like, people used to do things with bits of paper. So you had a huge organization, it could be a bank, and whenever they wanted to change something, they would fill in a bit of paper, pass it around, get signatures. We automated that. And it's right at the center of the universe of a company, which is how they should manage themselves. So I've got a lot of experience in that, in business processes, in getting new products onto the market, got a lot of IP experience. So I'm going to put all that together, and we've got the added sauce. We've got the added salt and pepper, which I didn't have all those years ago, which is AI can help us. Now, one of the big things that I've been involved with all these years, certainly at least 30 of those years, is risk management. Now, AI can be considered a risk, black and white. I'm not preaching to the converted, to the ones that believe it is a risk. I agree it's a risk. And I want to talk a little bit about the risk. Firstly, in our everyday lives. When we get in our cars, we take a risk. We could have an accident. When we get on a plane, the same can happen. It's the same in an organization. It's the same in a country. There's risks all the time. Now, we could, to minimize risk, never leave our homes. Or even then there's a risk. Certainly here in Cyprus, there could be an earthquake. That's a risk. But what about other types of risks? Well, certainly when it comes to working out the risk within IT, one of the things we've got to always be careful about is privacy, not breaking the laws regarding GDPR, which is very big in the European Union, and to a degree in the UK, and all the flavors for our American, Canadian, and South American friends who are on this webinar. But to what degree should we have security? And let me give you some examples, and this will all build up to a discussion about AI. At the most basic level, nearly every organization in the world is very, very careful about communication, about risk to do with that. Now, if we took it to the nth degree, we would never send emails. We wouldn't. It's too risky. Because when you send an email, unless you're using a server that's encrypted email to email for the same organization, which is often the case at government level, the email you send, you don't know what it's going through. So there's a risk. Similarly with communication, there's a risk when you're talking to somebody on the phone. The phone could be bugged. There are applications to stop that happening. A good one is WhatsApp. WhatsApp is encrypted. Even so, it is said that Mossad have broken the encryption of that. There's another one, Signal. I know loads of governments use Signal. They talk with each other on the phone and it's secure. Now, again, we've got to work out a way to minimize risk for our organization. If you take it to the ultimate level, no company should really ever use computers because there's a risk. In fact, I've got customers who use Faraday cages, which stop signals leaving a PC, a laptop, or a computer. It stops those signals from leaving it. And it's a way of protecting. But there's something I want to say which is a little bit, I could say, controversial. And I'm going to actually dare to say it. And I'm speaking on my own behalf. I'm not speaking on behalf of the EIMF. But if there's any company out there who has an IT director who has banned the use of generative AI within the organization, point blank, black and white, you may not use it. Respectfully, I think that is extremely blinkered. And such a person, with some exceptions, for example, IT director within government, military use, the CIA, of course, different rules apply. But I'm saying in any organization, any IT director that has the power to block the use of AI, generative AI, in their organization is at risk of causing problems to that organization. Why? Because all your competitors will use it. They'll get the edge. So I think it's very blinkered. And that is why, to avoid this conundrum, this almost torn viewpoint of safety, risk, openness, efficiency, we have come up with this organizational certification for safe generative AI use and compliance. It gives organizations this warm, fuzzy feeling that by going through a process of getting certified, it means you can safely use AI. I want to add one little disclaimer to that, and that is everything I'm saying today is in good faith. It applies today. And I'm not product specific. 80% of the generative AI market is actually ChatGPT. It's various flavors like 3.5, 4, whatever. It's got 80% of the market with hundreds of millions of users, billions of page hits. The next 20 together are about what ChatGPT has in terms of market share today. I'm product independent. Everything I'm going to talk to you about and the certification process, when it's eventually implemented, is not product specific. It could be Copilot, Gemini, Bard, Claude, Deep AI, or one of the others. The only one thing I will recommend, which is a little bit sort of a little side point, is I think it's good to experiment, but please do not experiment with the latest AI system on your live systems. Do it in an environment where you can play quite happily that does not affect your actual production systems. Otherwise, we could end up with a major disaster. And of course, problems cause changes, changes cause problems, and it's a vicious circle. So I advise that. Now, I've come up with this very strong opinionated point that it's very, very blinkered to say we must never use it. But I want to emphasize, I think we should be able to use it. I think you should be able to use it freely within parameters, which is why we have this certification process. I want to sort of do a little digression here. And I want to talk about the greatest inventions of all time. Do you know what I think is the greatest invention of all time? I know what you're all thinking. I can't see you. I can feel you. I can see your numbers. You think I'm going to say AI. I'm not. That's the number 2. I think the greatest invention of all time, and you're going to be shocked what I'm going to say, is the atomic bomb. The atomic bomb. Why? Because for the first time in the history of humanity, we can protect our planet from asteroids and comets. 1945, first atom bomb. That was not used in a nice way. Hiroshima, Nagasaki. 20 years later, we landed on the moon, June 1969. We have the rocket systems to use those atomic bombs if we need to. A few years later, we have the technology to actually aim for an asteroid or a comet. We didn't have that before the 1980s. All those 3 things together. And for the first time in our history, since the history of the world, we as a species can protect ourselves from an asteroid or comet. So that's my number 1. And I wanted to be fair here. I know I'm very pro AI, but I wanted to put that number 1 on my list. Of course, here is the other side of that. What is the worst invention in the history of the human race? The atomic weapon. Notice the difference? Atomic bomb, atomic weapon. So it has this mirror. One being absolutely wonderful for humanity, and the opposite, World War III, dirty bombs, terrorists, nasty stuff. That's where extreme care is needed. Now, everything I've just said, and the reason I said it, applies to AI, which I consider is the second greatest invention in the history of mankind, the human race. Now, that's a value judgment, but I tell you why. We have, in the last few years, a way that we can have the world's greatest PA, greatest programmer, greatest designer, greatest artist, literally in front of us, that understands 100 languages. It's a wonderful tool. If you implement it safely, it will absolutely transform your organizations. And we're going to go through the process of how we make sure it is done safely. Now, I want to give a kind of little surreal thing here. I want you to imagine it's 60 years in the future. You're very, very old. Not you, Panayoti, you'll still be around 80 years old then. But so it's 60 years in the future. And I want you to imagine you're very old, sitting at the fireplace with your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And I want you to imagine a conversation you will have with your kids and your grandchildren, etc. You as the patriarch or matriarch of your family. And that it could go something like this. It is like, oh, I remember 60 years ago. I remember this new thing. It was still a baby 60 years ago. It was only 2 years old. And I went on a webinar where they talked about safe use and compliance. And I still remember, I can't remember the name of the presenter. He had a big, long Greek name. From memory, and I still can't remember, it was, I think he was president of Cyprus or something, but I can't remember. That was so long ago. And it was from a Cyprus company. It was, yeah, Cyprus, what used to be an island before global warming made the Mediterranean disappear and dry up. So I want you to imagine you're that old man or woman thinking back. And I am saying to you, and I don't want to sound in any way egotistical or presumptuous. I firmly believe if you implement some of the things we are going to recommend, which everything you're going to hear will be on a video and everything will be in a write-up, including a little project plan, what should be done, I really believe you will change your organization forever because they will safely be able to use AI, generative AI. And from that, there's a little byproduct. It isn't a case of it being able to, for you to be able to be more efficient. It's a case of you can do team building and all sorts of other stuff by having all the basic parameters in place for safe generative AI use. And there's one other thing I want to say. There's a lot of people who hate AI. And you already know, I've told you, you've probably seen it if you've checked me out. As you know, I am a social activist. I get quite a few people reading my Facebook posts. I get quite a few likes, but I get more really negative responses when I'm dealing with AI than I do for everything else put together. You'll read some of the comments and even leave them there. Some of them are quite rude because people are afraid. And there's another reason people do not like AI. They see it as taking our jobs away. Now, to a degree that will happen, but it will probably be the more robotic type of jobs, the manual ones where you do repetitive actions. Other jobs that'll go in the future, they won't need as many programmers, they'll need super programmers. But I'm telling you something for your careers, whether you're a manager in this organization, maybe even a senior manager, or just a person dealing with compliance or anything similar. It's the ones that know how to use it, that know how to use generative AI safely, who can write guidelines for safe use. They're the ones that are going to have a job for a very long time. That I promise, which is why I really want you to learn how our process works, how you can implement it in your organization, and how to do it diplomatically. Because what you can't do is suddenly jump in with 2 feet and say, yeah, we're going to use the EIMF compliance process and we're going to roll it out across the organization. Let's do it slowly, let's do it gradually, and let's do it in slow, as they say in Greek, sira sira, slowly steps. So why certify in safe AI use? Well, firstly, it'll gain trust. Gain trust from whom? Well, it'll assure stakeholders, customers, regulators, shareholders. Now, you may say, well, we already do that to a degree. Yes, this is true, but it'll help you do it better. It really is a no-brain solution. In other words, there's no downside in doing it. The other thing is, I call it the ethical use of AI to ensure it's safe, it's compliant, it's deployed ethically. Now, when it comes to organizations, we have something called the EUA Act, certainly in Europe. In other countries, they have similar. Between now and 2027, there's a lot in the system to do that. I would say most organizations who are watching me now would only just touch on the EUA Act. It's a little thing to bear in mind unless you are using AI with other people externally. It's more GDPR and privacy and safe storage of information you've got to be careful of. But we ought to bear those points in mind. The other thing is if you position yourself now for safe AI use, it's going to do a major thing for you, a major thing for your organization. And that is, it's going to be future-proof. Now, all the procedures I'm going to recommend with EIMF's help, you create, right? And we're going to give you a kit. It's going to be good. We recommend you go back to them at least every 6 months, maybe even annually, because AI changes all the time. It is, we can't keep up with it. There's new AI tools coming out. There's new enhancements. One of the stuff that's been going on for a while is an example with ChatGPT. We can now, as organizations, which you couldn't about a year ago, depending where you are, is tell GPT, based on your subscription, that you do not want it to share your data for its internal training algorithm. Okay, now that is a big thing. It's been around about a year, and other products are doing that. But that is a very key point, because if you're using generative AI, you should ensure that you do not share your data. Now, I'm not saying OpenAI, who own ChatGPT, will willfully leak what you're trying to do. It's confidential. I also trust all the other suppliers. But what you don't want, as an example, let's say you're using the programming side of generative AI, and you are a hedge fund. And as part of using AI, you want to find out ways to make money from derivatives by putting every potential situation where the dollar and the euro will fluctuate. You put that in, you ask AI's opinion, you create some programming code. What you don't want is one of your competitors asking the same question in a different way, and for it to give some of your code it has improved back. Now, there's ways around it, and the ways around it is not to tell AI what you're doing. So don't tell it, we want to come up with this super system to make money off derivatives for our clients. You do it in pieces. That's something that we can advise you as part of the offering that the EIMF is providing. So how do we begin? I've talked for the first 30 minutes a little bit about theory, a little bit about myself, a little bit of my vision on its use. But how do we begin? Let's talk about the practical stuff. Well, as I've said at the beginning, and I will emphasize at the end, everything you see on this video, you will have a copy of the video. I will have an AI summary of what I discussed, so you don't have to go through files, which I don't have. And we'll have something else as well. And you will have this specification of what the next steps are for you to start a proof of concept within your organization on safe AI use. Okay, so I want to say we're going to do that. So let's start small. And I tell you why. Let's say on this webinar, there is somebody very senior, an executive manager. And from looking at the list of who's joining, there are some executive managers. There's even representatives from government, which thank you. Thank you for coming and listening. However, you can't jump both feet. You know, I want one of these. And as an example, Walmart, it has 2 million employees. It's the largest organization in the world. If they say, oh yeah, we'll do that. We'll have one of these Andronicos through the EIMF. Let's create our perfect AI environment, safe use. Everybody's going to be happy. We're going to be jumping up and down with joy. It will take time. And my suggestion is, even though we call it the organizational certificate, we've preempted something. Aha, those clever EIMF people. We've preempted something. And that is, to begin with, people will only want it for a department. But we can provide everything to make that happen with your help at the departmental level. Once that proof of concept is proven and you get your certification, right, you will get it at the department level. You can then slowly roll it out to other departments. And then they too can have compliancy certified. And just the thing on the financial side, if you've got 10 departments that do it, you're not going to be charged 10 times. So don't worry, okay? Because 90% of what the second department is going to do is going to be based on yours. That's why I'm suggesting it will really help your organization if you took the lead. Be the one, be the person that started it, because in 2, 3, 4 years, if you are Walmart, they'll remember who started it. Just like that old granddad with his grandkids, 60 years in the future, he'll look back and realize he was a trigger to make that happen. So the first step is, I recommend a proof of concept. Wait till we get the documentation, which we will send in approximately a week or so. We're going to aim for the end of November here, Panayoti, for the video.
Yes.
Excellent. So you should get that and the documentation. Then take it from there. It'll all be nice and simple. Okay, what to do. What we will then do, if assuming you want to proceed, we will do an AI compliance review of what you've got so far. And shall I tell you a secret? How are you going to create your documentation? How are you going to create your first attempt? You're going to use AI. Okay? And in the documentation I'm going to send you in a few days, we'll give you some prompts. The reason I didn't want to produce that is because every organization is different. Some governments will use it differently. Okay? Small organizations use it differently. So I wanted you to do the prompts. Well, we're going to give you some examples. And you can say to AI, give us some ideas how we can produce internal documentation for safe and compliant use. And then you make that, you shrink it or expand it. Because in my opinion, this documentation should not be huge. If it's going to be this long, you know, War and Peace, nobody will read it. Okay? All right? So what you're going to have is probably 2 or 3 pages of the ground rules. You cannot do this, you cannot do that. Please do this, please do that. Use it safely. Here's how. If in doubt, phone this number, which is our internal AI owner, you could say. And when you get to that stage, what most of this document you will create is some basic guidelines on how to use AI. Because if everybody in your organization knows how to use AI safely, it'll metamorphosize stuff. Everything will really exponentially get better. Now, I've prepared something for you. It's from last year. I'm going to now share a document. It runs to 170 pages. I did a course, one of the first courses in Europe, on how to take it. I used ChatGPT then at the time, take it to bits, and hundreds of examples. You are welcome to use those in your notes that you're going to share with members of your company to learn AI. But of course, adapt them to whatever tool you use. It could be Copilot, it could be Gemini. So use it. I'm quickly going to jump screen. We're running out of time. I don't know how time goes by so quick. So I'm going to share something. Okay. Right. Can we all see that? Can you see a PDF? Panayoti, can you see my document there? Good.
Give me a second. Yes.
Good. Okay. You will note something I do use. When I'm doing examples, and here I'm just going to take you to the index. And I'm saying you can study that. The link can be found, will be provided. It's actually online at the moment on the EIMF website to do with the course I did last year. But if you look at the contents, there I've got loads and loads of examples. Excuse me a sec. Right. And some of them are absolutely ridiculous. They're surreal. And give you some examples. I'm only going to look at the index and then maybe jump to one or two because we're running out of time. So, for example, I'm a banking regulator. Please tell me how you can help me. I'm a lawyer. Preparation for a wedding, using PowerPoint for a wedding speech, using helium to give a wedding speech. Don't do it. I've seen it happen. It's dangerous. Oh, this is a good one. In 5 minutes, I wrote the skeleton of a PhD thesis on Cyprus halloumi cheese and Cyprus sausages. Okay. Now, I'm sure all of you here will not find that particularly useful. But again, if you're creating guidelines for safe ethical use in your organization, the first bit will be the do's and don'ts. The next part, which I'm not saying should run to 150 pages, is the examples we can help you create with the EIMF. We can help you create them for education purposes. Because if you can write a PhD on Cyprus halloumi cheese in 5 minutes, translate it into 20 languages, and then write a rap song, you can do anything. Okay? So I often find a little bit of humor helps, especially when the subject is a little bit geeky and a little bit boring. Now, I did other things, helping write a CV. A lot of this stuff you can do to try it out. A new business, a My Little Pony abattoir, which would probably go down like a lead balloon with kids. Building a replica of the Great Wall of China using Lego. Examples, serious ones for journalists. Team building, you'll find that very useful. Now, we have this online already, okay? You can download it. It's been downloaded thousands of times. It's also available in Greek, if you want it. Right. And then a few little kind of social campaigns, you could say, ethical training, and I even wrote my own rules on, which I have fed to the EU, on how the world can be protected by expanding the EU AI Act. Now, I invite you to read through them. Some of it's a bit entertaining, but a lot of these are serious. And again, the reason I mentioned it is because I believe very, very strongly you should give examples when teaching AI to your colleagues, and that can be used for at least 6 months to a year, and even use it in a video. Now, I'm running out of time here, so I'm going to jump back onto mine. How do I get out of this? Okay, I've stopped sharing. You can see
Yes,
me.
excellent. Yes, yes.
Good, good. Let me get to the bottom line bits. Another thing I recommend is producing a little training video. We have one for you. We have one, but it's not a little one. It's 1 hour, 40 minutes. Have a look, watch it. It's linked to, again, on the EIMF webinar from last year. Do your own version. And by all means, in terms of an introduction, you can invite me to start it off, 10 minutes. Let's be charismatic. Let's get the troops all riled up so that they can take it to the next stage. And the next stage, excuse me, is probably the thing that puts everything together. And that is, okay, we're now certified for safe AI use. We've got the do's and don'ts for everybody to follow. We've got examples written, how we use it in an organization, in our organization, including, importantly, real life examples with a bit of humor thrown in so that people will read it. And you know, there's a really simple way to get somebody to read a document from start to finish, which is not particularly ethical. Put strictly confidential, level 5 only, senior management. It'll be read cover to cover, but you can't do that. It's not very nice. It's not truthful. So the last bit is the bit that puts it all together. And that is, it's something my friend, the government chief scientist of Cyprus, Dimitris Skouridis, did. Incredible guy. He's the government chief scientist. He is also in charge of the Research Innovation Foundation, or in Greek, it's called IDEC, and they provide grants to startups in technology and other stuff. This person got all his team, there's about 80 people, they're all, it's a government, semi-government organization. They went to the Planetarium in Cyprus. We've got a beautiful planetarium, must visit Cyprus, and did a kickoff meeting. And he invited me as well, a couple of other experts. The idea was to give them a taste of the power of AI and its safe use. He then got them into teams, and over the next few weeks, there was 6 teams of 8 people, and he literally said, do whatever you like, use any AI tool you like, okay, and improve how we do things. And what happened was they all earned badges with different AI products. They honed in on 2 or 3. They rewrote how they handle phone calls, how they write documents. That's why what we're doing is not just a case of, hey, let's tick a box called we're going to be compliant with AI. It will trigger a change. And that is, I believe, if you've got at least half your department or half your organization with a carte blanche to recommend improvements with the help of the world's greatest PA called AI, it will transform your organization. I'm now winding down with about 40 seconds to go. I'm hoping you didn't find my style a little bit too fast. I'm not going to multilingual training. There are tools to, you know, if you look at my Facebook and YouTube, I'm speaking fluent Japanese in a couple of things. AI in programming, that's a slightly different thing. To get compliant using AI in programming, you've got to have the first thing done first. Programming side, slightly different at a slight angle. And the transformation planning, I've already explained. What Dimitris Skouridis did, government chief scientist, should become a model for all government ministries. It will literally transform the public sector. And if organizations did it, you will be transformed. I'm sounding like an AI salesman, that I love it. I do, but I'm absolutely petrified of AI. And I hope by working together, we will make it safe for you, for your organization, for your stakeholders and shareholders, so that everybody will be happy. Panayotis, it's now it's almost 10 to, sorry, I've stolen 2.5 minutes.
No, just fine, we're in time. So thank you very much, Andronicos, for the information, for the insights. We have received a question from one of our attendees. Does your compliance kit include best practices for testing for bias or hallucinations?
That would be there, yes. Hallucinations, that's a good point. Sounds very tricky, you know, it's like LSD and stuff. Confirmation bias, it's something that one must always bear in mind. So, for example, if you wrote a question, I'm not saying you would do it, but if you said, how do you think Prime Minister Macron felt like when he was in jail in France? Okay, it'll probably believe you that he was, right? So one has to be careful of that. And hallucinations. I've experienced hallucinations with AI to the point where I just started again because it was talking absolute, I won't say rubbish. Okay. So yeah, it is included. That was a very good question. Next question.
Okay. Just checking if we have any comments or questions in our Q&A box or chat box. I have some question for you, Andronicos. Can you please explain the difference between departmental and organizational certification?
Sure. I think I only touched on it. If you've got organizational certification, I know how it works. I'm involved in politics, but also 40 years experience in corporate politics. To get anything done will take years. So my recommendation is start off departmental. Remember, it's not an exam. It's not like the advanced course I co-taught with my friend Manuel Avila, where advanced course for project management, where you do a test at the end, you do an exam individually. Departmental is for your department to tick the boxes. And you will do most of the work. We will guide you. Organizational is if you've got enough departments that have rolled it out. So there is a difference. What I don't want you to be worried about is, oh, we love the idea, but we're only one of 10 key departments. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to spend the next year having meetings by committee. So you don't have to do that. Next question,
right. Thank you. I think we have another one question. Let me check. All right. Okay, it was a good comment about your presentation and the way that you're presenting. That is quite interesting. So just this comment from one of our participants.
By the way,
thank you for.
By the way, I do apologize. I mean, one of the things about me is, and that's why I'm quite well known on the street. It's not my good looks. It's partly because I look like a South American drug lord, okay, with my hair. So I'm instantly recognizable. But I do try to present slightly differently, and I do use props. I didn't today. I took a giant banana on TV on the state main channel on news. That's another story. But I do thank you. I appreciate the compliment. And whoever did it, give me the name. It's worth at least 10 euro to whoever said it.
Okay, I will do that later. So thank you. All right. A couple of more questions, maybe, if you could answer it. Can you please explain a little more about the documentation you will send to participants of this
Sure.
webinar afterwards? Yes.
Okay, I'm going to use AI to summarize this video, right? So you're not going to get 20 slides. You just want to get a summary, the key points. Yeah, I'm not going to throw in the jokes I use so much. The other thing I'm going to tell you is why there's a cute little puppy dog. The hot dog, right at the front. You remember the hot dog puppy? The head in the bowl, for those who are very sharp, already know that was at the top of the PDF I just showed you of all the examples. Okay. You know, head in the bowl, the good and the bad of AI, whatever. And the other point was, in this documentation will be links to what I said we already have links to in case people can't find them. Incidentally, if you have a problem finding them, if you go to my Facebook page, Andronicos CY, scroll down, find the head in a fruit bowl, and there's another one actually, which got a heck of a lot of likes from around August, September last year, could have been October, is my wife ran off with a goat farmer. Okay, and where do babies come from? That points to the documentation. Okay, so you're going to get everything, and how to begin a proof of concept, because I want the first person, the first people in your organization to get the credit for starting this off. They will appreciate it. Your organizations will appreciate that you did this and it all rolled out over the next year or two, because you will help protect the world. You will help protect your companies and stakeholders. And it's a no-brainer. Okay? So I'm sounding like a salesman. I'm not, just being me. Right, next questions. And I'm happy to stay on as long as you want, by the way. I believe on Thursday evenings at the EIMF, any guests you have here, there's free champagne and lobster sandwiches. But I can wait for them, okay? That's no problem, Panayoti.
Yeah, sure. To serve yourself, to help yourself. So, Andronicos, just last question from my side, at least. Can you please give an indicative pricing for this EIMF certification?
That's it's a kind of awkward question, but thank you for asking. I mean, this is where I am Greek Cypriot, right? Even though I'm British as well, I'm dual, I swim both ways. This is where I should really do my Greek Cypriot accent. It's like, we do you special deal. You buy, we give you free watermelon, 15 kilos, okay? Good price, good price. No, seriously, I think it really depends. But put it this way, we want this rolled out worldwide, okay? We want this rolled out. We're going to have a very low entry price, and I'm talking low thousands, right? Low thousands. To get certainly past the first couple of phases. It doesn't mean if you've got 10 departments, it's going to be 10 times that. It will be very fair. What I want is safe AI use. I want as many companies as possible in the shortest period of time to get certified. That's why I'm partnering with EIMF, because you have the absolute street cred. Well, I have street cred, but I mean, you've got your global customer base. So it'll be very fair. In fact, can I just say something on the purchasing side? It's so little. If any of you have got any money left in your budget, it could be under your education budget for 2024 or consultancy budget, we don't care. Spend it, because on the 1st of January 2025, you will lose it. Spend it. Doesn't mean you have to pay now, but if you commit to it in the purchase order, it can be delivered first quarter, do it now. So if you're a budget holder, think about it. If you're not, ask your budget holder. And that's why we're trying to get this out, this video out and the notes out as soon as possible. And you will get the free watermelon, 15 kilos. So next question, Panayoti.
Yes, so we have one from Katarina that would be nice to consider. Could you please clarify in which jurisdictions, industries, or regulatory frameworks this certification is currently accepted or recognized? And there is a second question, if you want to inform you, or would you like to answer the first question first?
I'll answer
the first part of the question.
Right. I'll answer the first one. And I will use an example of my experience under what is called ITIL. ITIL is best practice in IT. Okay. That was developed in the late 70s, early 80s by the UK government. It then became an absolute global standard. It's how IT is run, problem, change, capacity management, risk management. Then there was organizations that provided examinations and courses. There was a company called Pink Elephant that made millions out of this. Okay. The EIMF is a respected organization that even does masters. You do master's degree now, Panayoti, right?
Correct.
Recognized worldwide. It's not some third world Mickey Mouse company, right? Where you buy a PhD for $50. It's our own, but the bar is set high. And in terms of jurisdiction, one of the questions is jurisdiction. What was the other question? Jurisdictional?
Jurisdiction, industries or regulatory frameworks.
At the moment, we're creating it. We are creating the regulatory framework. Just like now, I don't know how many courses and exams you as the EIMF are allowed to do, but you are the Rolls Royce. That's why I've partnered with you to do this. In the same way, when I taught all my classes for IBM, which were 1 week at a time, they were the ones that certified the people who passed. You have the street cred and credibility. So no, it's not like somehow we're going to have a PhD in AI organizational certification for safe use. It's not like it is a standard your company with our experienced industry experts will guide you to. And what was the second question? I believe
I think you have, yes. I believe you have answered, but additionally, it would be helpful to know if there are specific organizations, regulatory bodies, or industry sectors that have endorsed or partnered with this certification program.
At this stage, no, it's new. It's just been launched. We're going to create this standard. We're going to make that move forward. But look, I'm going to tell you something. The least that will happen is the word isn't force. It will entice looking at ourselves in the mirror as organizations. It's a self-awareness, which it's nice to have a certificate at the end. That's what I'm saying.
Great. Thank you very much, Andronicos. We ran out of time, so we need to wrap up. Thank you all for your time attending this webinar, as well as your contribution with the questions and comments. Thank you very much. We sincerely hope you found it enjoyable and valuable. Special thanks, of course, to our presenter, Andronicos. Thank you very much for your time to present this topic and offer your insights. So we'd like to thank you all once more, and we're looking forward to seeing you in one of our next webinars. So stay tuned and enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, ladies.